All right, well, in this video, I'll be talking about examinations in two real styles or perspectives. First of all, practically speaking, like what you actually need to do to ace these things, to do very well in these things. And then next, after this, I will talk about like what an exam actually is and why is it so prevalent in the education system for judging intellect. So first of all, okay, so what is an exam? An exam is basically a collection of questions with relevant information under some sort of timed condition for you to answer those questions in a way in which the exam board accepts those answers as correct. By doing this effectively, you will gain some sort of standing within this system as, being a successful or unsuccessful student. And so that's objectively what the exam is. And so let's talk about it practically for like what you should be doing in your exam. So you're basically going to encounter obviously different questions which you should have to answer. And there's two things that can basically happen when you encounter a question. You can either, one, know what to do, know how to begin answering it and progressing towards an answer, or two, you don't know how to begin. And this occurrence, either you know what to do or don't know what to do, is based upon your preparation. And like I've said many times before, preparation really, if you get it down to just purely what it is you want to be hammering your mind with exam questions and answers. If you do that, then your mind will begin to understand, it will figure out the patterns in ways that you can't see and ways which will kind of come up when you're in the exam. But it's really important that you hammer home question after question after question after question. And then if you get it wrong, then you look at the answer to the question and you understand that answer. By doing that over and over and over again, your mind will recognize patterns, your mind will understand what this thing is and how to do well in it, and it will begin to resolve these things for you. So that's really the preparation side of it, which will define whether you know what to do in a question or don't know what to do in a question. Other than that, what happens when you don't know what to do? You don't know how to begin. This is what I am saying you should do. Number one is you should write down all of the relevant information that is given to you within the question, because that's what the answer will require. It will require to use relevant information in the question and relevant information outside of the question, maybe such as a formula sheet or even like A or B. Like if it's A, B, C, and maybe you're answering C, then usually A and B have some sort of information which you will need to use to answer C. And so once you have identified and written down clearly for your mind to see all the relevant information, you then will attempt again to come up with some sort of beginning to answer this question. If you still don't know how to begin, then what you do is you want to uncover more information. So you have some sort of area in which the question is being asked, and you have some information which they've given you. You then want to use that information to then uncover more information. The more information you have, the more likely it is you will know how to begin the question. That's for sure. And you go through this process with each question that you don't know how to do to begin. And so you've got as much information as possible. If then still you cannot figure out how to begin this thing, then what you do is you move on. And so you move on because you're limited in time here. So you move on and you leave that question for the beginning, for the end of the for the end of the exam, or when you finish, because you're trying to accumulate as many marks as possible here. And so that's really what you should do. And you just move on. because you don't want to spend unnecessary amount of time being perfect. You want to accumulate as much marks as possible, and then with the extra time you have at the end, you want to then go back to the questions that you couldn't begin or couldn't progress through to answer, and you want to then reattempt to answer them. With the first example, I mean, you use the same stuff that I said, but you could know how to begin it, but then like along the way of answering this, you get stuck. And again, when you get stuck, you bring relevant information in. It's all about the information that you have available, because information is really power here in answering these questions. So if you're stuck halfway through answering a question, you then look at the information that you've gotten, the information that you've given, that they've given, and you bring information that you know about this area, and you start to bring in as much as possible to help you figure out the next step in this solution. And yeah, that's really practically speaking what it is. I mean, just objectively, all we really have here is a time condition and a bunch of questions, and that's it. And there's a specific way to answer these questions for sure. Hold on. All right. Now, in terms of the exam itself, what's going on there? Now, this is for like, if you're just interested in the practical sense, what I just spoke upon there, and that's very relevant, like for you having that attitude when you're entering into your exam, it's very relevant that you know what I just said and understand what I just said. But now what I'm going to talk about is, why is this exam thing, like an exam, why is it the judgment of your intellect? How is that the case? Well, what's actually happening here is that you're being taught to think in a certain way. And there's actually a crucial thing that you're being taught unbeknownst to you, is you're being taught to value the judgment of an external system. And that is really at the core why these exams are so prevalent within education, is because if you do well in them and answer the questions the way that the system requires you to answer them, then the system will tell you that you are intelligent, you are successful within this system. And so it's teaching you to value the external judgment of an external system. And that's why it makes you into a productive member of society, because if you do it that way, then the new external system when you're an adult is the government. And if you act in a way to get the approval of the government or society as a whole, then the society will reward you for that. But actually, education as it is has nothing to do with how intelligent you are. It only has to do with how good you are at thinking in a certain way. Education should really be about teaching you how to think independently. But education as it is right now, and the exam kind of style of education that we have, has no interest in that. An original, creative and conscious thinker will actually become extremely disassociated and dissatisfied with the education they're receiving, because you're receiving inert ideas which they're recycling, and you're basically regurgitating in different ways to use those ideas to answer questions. But in life in general, that's actually not that important. But in society, it is important for you to be able to do that. You have some judgment system of a grander system in which the individual you are involved in, and you have to meet that standard and get the validation of that system to progress through it successfully. And that's really underneath it all what's being taught to you, probably unbeknownst to you. But if you really want to be an intelligent human being, what you need to do is become aware of things. So you want to be aware of what's happening and try to just see it as something you can use. Like, having understanding of education as a whole will make you extremely powerful within the system, because you can see it for what it is. And you're not just a pawn moving through it being told what to do. And in life in general, and the way you probably should be educated, is you want to be able to think for yourself in all situations. And yeah, I mean, it's a sort of, I'm reluctant to say it, but it's kind of like a mind control. You're being taught to think in a way that's beneficial for the system as a whole, but not beneficial for you as an individual, of understanding, of seeing, of being aware of what's real and what's not real. This artificial system is being used to control your mind to think in a certain way which benefits that system as a whole, but doesn't benefit you as an individual who wants to know, who wants to experience truth, understanding, be creative, and be a dictator of your own life. And that's really the undergoing sort of negative thing, if you want to view it like that, that's actually happening to you. But just being aware of that will cure this. Just being aware of it. I'm not saying don't do well in school. I'm saying that if you're aware of what's happening, then you can do even better in school, and you can be even more successful because you'll be in control of it. You're not being pushed around. Anyway, well, that's it. If you have any questions, please ask. But yeah, I mean, practically speaking, it's exactly what I said at the beginning. You have the questions and you want to extract the relevant information. Information is power here. The more information you have, the more likely it is you're going to be able to get the correct answer. And information is everything within these exams and within these questions and answering them correctly. But that's it from me. Hopefully that was insightful. And I'll see you when I see you. Goodbye.